Nicholas was a simple man. He worked in a big factory for many years. He was not rich or important, but he was smart. He watched everything carefully. Every day he saw his friends and coworkers work in terrible conditions. The air was full of dust, the machines were old, and the floors were always wet. Sometimes accidents happened, but the factory owners did not care. Nicholas worried a lot. He knew that one day something very bad would happen. He tried to talk to his boss. "Sir, the machines are too old. The workers are not safe," he said. But the boss only laughed. "Nicholas, you are just a worker. Do your job and don't worry," he answered. Nicholas did not stop. He spoke to his friends. "We must do something. If we don't, one day there will be a big disaster." Some people listened, but most were afraid. They needed their jobs. If they complained, they might lose their work. One day, Nicholas wrote a letter to the factory owners. He explained everything: the broken machines, the dangerous floors, and the dirty air. He sent the letter and waited. He hoped they would listen. Instead, the next day they called him to the office. "You are making trouble, Nicholas," the manager said. "We don't need troublemakers. You are fired." Nicholas lost his job. He felt angry and sad, but he knew he had done the right thing. He tried to find work in another factory, but it was difficult. The factory owners talked to each other. They did not want a worker who asked too many questions. Years passed. Nicholas found small jobs here and there. He worked as a cleaner, as a driver, as a helper. He never forgot about the factory. Sometimes he walked past it and looked at the big building. It still stood, but he knew it was not safe. Then, one terrible day, it happened. A loud noise shook the town. Smoke and fire rose into the sky. People ran and screamed. The factory had collapsed. Many workers were inside. Some managed to escape, but many did not. The news spread quickly. Everyone was shocked. The reporters came. They asked questions. How did this happen? They wanted to know. Some old workers remembered Nicholas. He warned them, they said. He told them this would happen, but no one listened. Nicholas became famous. The newspapers wrote about him. People said, "He tried to help. He tried to stop this." The families of the dead workers cried. They wanted justice. Nicholas did not feel happy. He did not want fame. He only wanted the workers to be safe. He stood in front of the ruined factory and made a decision. He would not stop. He would fight for workers' rights. He would speak for the people who had no voice. He started talking at meetings. He met other people who wanted change. Together, they fought for better conditions in factories. Some factory owners listened. They made their workplaces safer. Others did not want to change, but the people pushed them. Nicholas had lost his job, but he had found a purpose. He had lost his old life, but he had become something greater. He was not just a simple worker anymore. He was a symbol of justice. Nicholas continued his fight. He traveled to different cities, speaking to workers and factory owners. Some people supported him, but others were against him. "Why do you care so much?" some factory owners asked. "You lost your job years ago. This is not your problem anymore." But Nicholas shook his head. "It is everyone's problem," he answered. "A safe workplace is a right, not a gift. If we do not speak, more people will die." He helped workers create unions. He showed them how to stand together and ask for better conditions. "If one worker speaks, they can fire him," he said. "But if all workers speak, they must listen." Some factories improved. They bought new machines and cleaned the air. They gave workers safety equipment, but others refused. They tried to stop Nicholas. Some men followed him at night, trying to scare him. They sent letters telling him to be quiet, but he did not stop. One day, a group of workers in another city called him. "Our factory is dangerous," they said. "We are afraid, but we cannot leave. We need our jobs." Nicholas traveled to meet them. He saw the same problems he had seen years ago. The floors were wet, the air was dirty, and the machines were too old. He spoke to the workers. "You have power," he told them. "If you work together, you can change this." But the factory owners were angry. They told the police that Nicholas was making trouble. The police arrested him. "You are disturbing the peace," they said. For the first time, Nicholas was afraid. He sat in a cold cell, thinking about his life. Had he made a mistake? Had he lost everything for nothing? Then something amazing happened. The workers he had helped came together. They protested outside the police station. "Free Nicholas," they shouted. "He is not a criminal. He is our voice." The newspapers wrote about it. people from other cities joined. They asked, why is a man arrested for trying to protect workers? The government had no choice. They released Nicholas. When he walked out of the police station, he saw a crowd waiting for him. They cheered. They clapped. Some cried. Nicholas smiled, but he knew the fight was not over. Years later, laws changed. Factories became safer. Workers had rights. They could not be fired for asking for better conditions. Nicholas grew older. He no longer worked in factories, but his name was known everywhere. Children learned about him in school. Workers remembered him when they went to their jobs safely. One day, an old man came to see him. "Do you remember me?" the man asked. "I worked in your factory many years ago. You tried to warn us. I was afraid to listen back then, but now, because of you, my son works in a safe factory. Thank you." Nicholas felt a tear in his eye. He had lost his job, but he had saved many lives. He was not just a worker. He was a hero.